Try to pick up something for a wedding.
Oh, that's cool. All right, we're streaming. Maybe you should put on the audio so we can hear it.
Hear what? Oh, you want to hear the stuff?
Over the air, yeah, audio.
Okay. All right. I'll let you listen.
And restrictions apply.
Pretty quiet weekend weather-wise, but that's okay. You're skiing and riding in mild sunshine, and snow may soften a little bit as temperatures rise during the day. Bear Mountain and Snow Summit are sold out for Saturday, but snow tubing is still available. They combine for 46 trails. Mountain High still had some ticket availability, but you got to check online. They're on 22-pack powder slopes, and Snow Valley skiing on around a dozen trails. Mammoth picked up a few inches of fresh snow early in the week. They have machine-groomed snow on a fast, firm base, a 4-foot snowpack, skiing and riding on 105 trails. They groom 50 of those slopes, including 13 groomed black diamonds at Mammoth. Get more at snowcountry.com. I'm Chuck Devine on KMET 1490 AM.
That's right. It's the morning show here on ABC News Radio, KMET 1490 AM. I'm Aaron Michael Sanchez. Glad to have you with us on today's show. We've got lots of stories coming in. Of course, the question is, will Trump be at the inauguration? I can't believe that's a question, really, seriously. Evidently, he just tweeted he's not, for those asking, which I have to say, I mean, I don't know what you guys think out there, but I think that's kind of one of those attention grabber ones, like, I don't want to play with the other kids. They don't like me. I'm so sad. I hate things, blah, blah, blah. What do you think there, Jesse? We got Mr. Jesse Sanchez over there.
Yeah, I can say a lot of things, but he's just coming off as a disrespectful baby. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna, I always said, I think a lot of people said he's a sore loser, right? Doesn't know how to lose gracefully, which, I mean, come on. It's you lost the election. You lost, I think, I don't know if he lost you and I were asking the question. I think we have to ask the question of those out there. Did you lose respect or did you gain respect in the last coming months with the current respect that the president hasn't given to anyone? I don't know, but I do know this. We got people tuning in. Rosalie says, good morning, beautiful people. Maria says, good morning. Hope everyone has an awesome day. Thank you. Penelope says, good morning, beautiful people. Stephanie Reed says, hello, happy editing this glorious chilly day ahead for today, this awesome busy day. Stephanie always knows how to keep it alive and well in Cleveland, Ohio. Very positive. Very, very, very positive. Let's see. And then Maria says, I don't think he will be, what's TBH?
To be honest.
Got it. Thank you. I appreciate that. So let's see. Mario says, Donald J. Trump tweeted out, to all those who have asked, I will not be going to the inauguration on January 20th. I'm not sure who did ask that, though, but I'm sure somebody did. Is he wanting, do you think people are going to beg him? Because sometimes people do that. They're like, I don't want to go. And then they just want to be begged to go. But I'm kind of feeling like we're good without, but I don't know. Katya Wunderland tunes in from Switzerland. Thank you for saying that. Good morning to everybody and the Breakfast Club. Cindy Oda Lee. I haven't seen Cindy in a while. Good to see you, Cindy. Good job over there. Whatever you're doing, I can almost guarantee it. Cindy's always very busy in investment and real estate and whatnot. So keep it going. All right. And social media land. Yes, we're taking all of your comments as well. Let us know what you're thinking ahead of some of the news. This is one of the big moments here. Trump says he will not attend president inauguration. We just said that. Okay, that's breaking. But check this out. Trump-Biden transition live updates. House Democrats move closer to second Trump impeachment. Now, again, the question is, because I did see his Twitter, it popped up on my Twitter feed, and he did say that he, all of the violence and everything, he's saying they will be dealt with, and National Guard's been called out and whatnot. But the question is government going to have a heavier hand on him than they have in the past? What do you think, Jesse?
If not, they should. They should. He's coming off as a crazy person at this moment. Like, seriously, it's like, you want him to be your leader?
Yeah, I mean, these are some of the latest news items here, and I'll show them right here, right now. Let's see. The Republican Senator Ben Sass of Nebraska said Friday morning he would consider moving on articles of impeachment if the House brought charges against the president of the Senate. Sass told CBS, the House, if they come together and have a process, I will consider whatever articles they might move, because as I've told you, I believe the president has disregarded his oath of office. He swore an oath to the American people to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution. He acted against that. What he did was wicked. Ooh, wow. Called him out wicked. Yikes. 62 Democrats have signed on to a letter to Speaker Nancy Pelosi calling on House leaders to immediately reconvene the House of Representatives to reckon with the assault on our democracy, is what they're calling it, that took place at the Capitol this week. The letter reads this in part: we could take up the question of whether President Trump should be censured or impeached for encouraging a violent act on the United States Congress, as well as Representative Raskin's proposal that Congress appoint a body as provided by the 25th Amendment to determine whether the president is fit to discharge the powers and duties of his office. It comes ahead of House Democrats convening by phone at noon to discuss a path toward on getting Trump out of office. Yikes. So that's what's happening as of this morning. This is just minutes away. And perhaps because of all of this, you got to imagine his team over there, which, meet with him on a daily basis. What is that conversation like for him, and what does that mean for his ability to go further? Honestly, I would just say, can you just go ahead and, hand it over to Pence right now? Just let him handle it all. Would you like to go and, well, whatever that is. I know there's a lot of Trump supporters still listening, so I'm not gonna attack it that way. But I think you ask a question that really needs to be asked at the end of the day. Is this the type of leadership that you really want to be able to? I mean, at least does he have to be forced to hand off, or will he hand off willingly? I don't know. What do you think, Jess?
I have no idea. But I can't see him staying in office. I'm like, just give it up. I mean, like, I'd have more respect for him if he was to come out and be like, you know what, I'm sorry for doing all this, blah, blah, blah. But, he's not going to do that. He's not the type of person to apologize.
Maybe he'll say he had a coronavirus moment. Maybe that drug didn't help him out. What? That's like his only. I think he could be like, ever since I got the coronavirus, my mind hasn't been quite that. Please, I mean, that would. I mean, it's kind of a book out of like, Clinton. I did not do that. I did not have. But okay, moving on. Let's see. Stephanie says, I was going to apply for the inauguration under press, but I couldn't access the website to apply for press for an opportunity experience as a media person. Honestly, I wouldn't want to be there as a media person. If you saw what happened during this whole Capitol situation, people lost their livelihood. If sometimes what people don't understand is there are independent journalists and there are people that get paid by like ABC, corporate, and the equipment is, of course, the corporations. However, if you don't have insurance for your equipment, like you saw some of these people, and they were look, the protesters were tearing down media equipment and throwing water on it to fry it and kicking it and storming it. And that's mob mentality. Trust me, you don't want to be around that. I don't know if the inauguration is going to be as safe, although I would imagine they're going to take this last one and kind of go, okay, we need to be super, super, super aware. And back to something you brought up earlier, Jesse, is coronavirus going to have a huge peak now with that? And I don't know if they've even done this. Have they sanitized the Capitol in order to be coronavirus free? So now you got that situation, which I just thought about, because there's no way they went back to it at the evening, but I'm like, yeah, but now you're storming the halls where you got a bunch of people just like pretty much licking the upholstery, right? So there you go. What? That's how I view it. Okay. Cindy says he's off his meds. If he had any, he needs some, I would imagine. So Diana Carbajal says, good morning. Good morning from Downey. Glad to have you with us. Stephanie says, honestly, I would rather have Arnold Schwarzenegger become president because he's a leader and have political experience. He might get us all free gym memberships. And you know what? If Arnold ran, he would have been a lot smarter about it. Maria says, send him to play golf. Put Pence in. And then Cindy says, let Pence go away, Donald Downer. So we got a fun group today, this morning. Look, however you slice it or dice it, these are the things that are being asked at Capitol Hill. And, you know, if this is how he goes out, I wouldn't be. Well, let's put it this way. The last person to suddenly kind of give up his right to rule. Do you remember that, Jesse?
The last person? No, I do not. Maybe I do. Maybe I don't. I'm just can't recall any of those facts.
One hint: Watergate.
Nixon. No, wait. I don't know. Why does that sound familiar?
Look it up. It's an interesting transition of power, which basically was him saying, "I forfeit. I go away."
Oh, yes. Richard Nixon and somebody else.
Yeah, it's not the way to go out, but it's kind of the only way to go out at this point, I think, for him to just kind of say, you know what, I'm going to hand it over just right now. Why don't we just do that? But I still don't think he's going to. I think he's going to come up with 20 billion other reasons to stay in power, which, again, is he a businessman or is he a tyrannical person that wants to just keep his place because he wants to do it? This is the same type of behavior people have been talking about. And I do agree, at the end of the day, those that have been supporting him up until now, you do have to forcibly kind of say, are you still wanting to be with that guy? Right? Just saying. Whether you like Joe Biden or not isn't really the issue. Is that the kind of guy that you want really dictating what it is you do at the end of the day? I don't think so, but I could be wrong. All right, people, let's see. We got to take a quick break here on the morning show. I'm Aaron Michael Sanchez. That's Jesse over there. Let's see, get that right. Over there, that's Jesse. We'll be right back with more right after these messages. Stay tuned. Can you play the audio, please?
Yep.
Can you imagine exploring spiritual consciousness through an exotic action-adventure story? The Atua Man is masterfully illuminated in this self-discovery novel by John Stevenson. Dive into the page-turning epic hero's journey, weaving together high action with spiritual revelation. Join the Atua Man and his colorful cohorts as they travel through the majestic Hawaii, the hidden mysteries of Polynesia, and the intrigue, starting with the mysterious healing that breeds chaos in London. This journey guides us through the trials of living in the material world, arriving into enlightened consciousness, perhaps glimpse into the fabric of creation. How is the Atua Man affected by the global healing ministry surrounding him? How does he navigate the complexities of love, forgiveness, life and death, wealth and power? Find out in John Stevenson's TheAtuaMan.com, Apple Books, Amazon, Barnes & Noble.
Experience sheer driving pleasure. Visit BMW of Ontario in the Ontario Auto Centre. Whether you are looking to purchase, lease, or service your BMW, there is only one place to go in the Inland Empire, and that is BMW of Ontario. Visit us today, just east of Interstate 15 off Harupa Street, or online at bmwofontario.com.
Do you owe $10,000 or more to the IRS or state? Did you miss sending out a prior year tax return? The IRS is out to collect now more than ever, and they'll use any means necessary. They legally can and will garnish your wages, take your money, and even seize your property. If you're behind on your taxes, call the tax relief hotline right now at 951-224-9000. That's 951-224-9000. 951-224-9000. You can legally get your tax debt under control, and in many cases, get the breathing room you need. Garnished wages, property seizures, bank levies can stop immediately, but you have to call. Many of our specialists are IRS enrolled agents. They know the system and how to make it work for you. Don't wait for the IRS to come down on you. Act now so you can get your tax debt under control. Call the Riverside office today for free info at 951-224-9000. That's 951-224-9000. 951-224-9000.
When you want the best performance for your vehicle, think only of Scott's Headers and Mufflers in Beaumont, right off the I-10 and 60 freeways. Check out Scott's complete list of performance products on their website at hdrinfo.com. Scott's Headers and Mufflers can recommend ways for your car or truck to get better gas mileage and cut down on emissions. Need your car or truck to pass smog only? Go to Scott's Headers and Mufflers in Beaumont. Find out all of your questions on vehicle performance by logging on to hdrinfo.com. Scott's Headers and Mufflers in Beaumont. hdrinfo.com.
That's right. It's the morning show again here on ABC News Radio KMET 1490 AM. Glad to have you with us. On today's show, we're discussing the latest topics that are coming across our news headlines, and one of which a lot of people are wondering if you get a test, is it going to come back as a false negative, which is one of those things when you wait in line and you get one and you're hoping again for it to be negative, but do you want a false negative? Jesse, have you gotten any one of these tests as of recent?
As of recent, yes, but not a false negative. I've never even heard of that.
Yeah. So in other words, it comes back negative, but it should be a positive. So therefore it's a false negative. So, but how do you determine that? San Dimas-based diagnostics firm Curative, whose coronavirus tests are widely used across the country, including at LA sites, is defending the validity of their tests following a federal government alert about the possibility of false negative results. The FDA issued the alert Monday, warning of the potential for Curative tests to wrongly come back negative. It did not give any indication about the breadth of the problem or how often such false results occur. The agency warned that the test must be administered in accordance with its authorized use, which limits it to use on people who are showing symptoms of COVID-19. Testing in LA is open to people regardless of whether they are showing symptoms. Mayor Eric Garcetti said today that he defended the Curative test, saying administering them on asymptomatic people has allowed the city to catch the virus in 92,000 people who would have gone undetected otherwise. Garcetti said, quote, "The proof is that we've had a third of people, nearly 100,000 people who would have gone undiagnosed that we were able to catch because of this test. It has helped us predict those surges in hospitalizations and deaths as a result. I'm not going to ever apologize because there was, I think, a lot of debate about whether asymptomatic people should be tested or not. The choice is whether we find those 92,000 or not. It's not like there's some other test that FDA says it's better or that's working better on asymptomatic people. I'd rather do it and continue to push forward with finding those tens of thousands of people that every single month we are finding who are asymptomatic." He reminded test takers to cough vigorously 3 to 5 times before swabbing their mouth, added the PCR tests are never 100% accurate and should not be viewed as a free pass to ignore public health directives. According to the FDA alert, they said when the test is not performed in accordance with the authorization or as described in the authorized labeling, there is a greater risk that the results of the test may not be accurate. It states that the collection of specimens must be directly observed and directed during the sample collection process by a trained healthcare worker at the specimen collection site. Garcetti said paramedic firefighters are at every testing site, but are not the ones assisting people with the test. The FDA alert also notes a person who incorrectly receives a negative result will be delayed in receiving treatment, and efforts to trace others who may have been exposed to the person will also be delayed, potentially resulting in further spread of the virus. Garcetti said the city will double down on education to make sure test takers at the city's sites know how to properly take the test. Curative issued a statement this week defending their test. They said, quote, "Curative's test has been validated and is being offered during the pandemic under an emergency use authorization and is labeled with specific warnings, precautions, and limitations that FDA reiterated in the safety communication. The test performance and labeling, however, have not changed, nor has the company observed any changes in test performance. We have been working with the agency to address the concerns and these limitations. We will continue to work interactively with FDA through the emergency use authorization." Company officials said they remain committed to following all federal regulations and ensuring its tests meet or exceed the customer's expectations. And just so you know, Curative has administered more than 11 million tests nationwide, including cities like San Francisco, Chicago, Houston, and Atlanta. And the county's testing website states, "No test for COVID-19 is perfect." So, Jesse, how does that make you feel over there?
It's pretty much, even if you get a negative, it's not a pass to say, "Hey, I'm free of COVID, blah, blah, blah." It just means you don't have it up into that moment that you took the test. Because you can get COVID 4 hours later after you take the test. So
that's a good point. That's a really good point. That's a great point, actually. Always be on the lookout. Always watch your symptoms, right? I think for those, look, again, there, and we've always said this, but on the flip side of that, people talk about the vaccine as well. There's no 100%. So there's always a percentage, right, that's going to be wrong. And I think the question of the day is, are they backpedaling on this information? Is FDA? Because whenever FDA makes a big statement and a bold statement like that, there's usually a reason for it, right? FDA if they have a recall, all of a sudden, Toyota's like, oh man, So, I'm just saying, I don't know. I have questions. I think again, look, there's many different types of tests, and sometimes a false negative. I've seen people do 2 different tests. I had a bodybuilder friend who actually did 2 different tests. One came out completely negative. He thought he was fine. 3 days later, he felt terrible, but he found out that he took the wrong test, right? It was for the antibody test, and that doesn't work if you're just getting it right away. So, and we've had experts here on the show, which, we're doing antibody tests to see how many people are immune to it. But again, that was a month and a half ago, and we had a huge surge since then. And so the question is, what next? What are you going to do next? I don't know. Social media comments. Let's look at what people are saying. Maria says, a negative COVID test does not mean you don't have COVID. It just means it's unlikely you were infected 7 to 10 days ago. It's not a crystal ball. It's certainly not a get out of jail free card. Live accordingly. Smart. And that's coming from a nurse practitioner who does a lot of healthcare. So pay attention. And she says, that's why we get tested every 10 to 14 days at work. And I love that you do that. I don't know which test you use, but it is true. Sometimes tests, look, there's a lot of tests that are being targeted towards like a self-administered test. And I could see those becoming wrong. It's like other types of tests, I'm thinking right now, I don't know why, like a urine test. It's kind of hard to get that one wrong when you pee in a cup. But it's like, what if you mislabel it or all of a sudden it's somebody else's and you're like, I don't know. Right, Jesse? I mean, there's ways around, urine tests, right? No, people do that for drug testing.
Right? Just imagine you're a guy, you take a urine test, find out you're pregnant. It happened.
Exactly. I guess it would happen. All right. So there you go. Hopefully in your world, not in my world. Let's see. Gorilla Chico says the human virus, we must be genetically modified through vaccinations. I've never been tested and I never will. I think you will. Well, if you're a gorilla, you probably won't be. Although I think gorillas get they get coronavirus too. I know. Remember, tigers got coronavirus. Do you remember that when they were testing it? And so, but we've had less information on that. But cats, dogs, yeah, people can get it. All right. And then there is this as well. Stimulus. I know everybody's thinking about it. Did you guys get your payment? According to this, the IRS says if you check your payment status online and you get a message that says payment status number 2 not available, that means you will not receive a second stimulus payment. The IRS says because of the speed at which the second payments were issued, oh boy, I don't even want to read this. Some stimulus payments may have been sent to an account that may be closed or is no longer active or unfamiliar. By law, the IRS says banks must return the payment to the IRS. They cannot hold and issue the payment to an individual when the account is no longer active. The IRS says they also cannot change mailing information. So, man, I can imagine how many people have actually moved in between this. What can you do if you moved or changed your banking information and don't end up getting a second payment? The IRS says you can claim something called a recovery rebate credit on your 2020 taxes. So, in other words, it won't help you now, but it might later if you remember. Tax expert Chad Elkins says this, quote, well, here's what it is. On your 2020 tax return, your Form 1040, there's a new box that's going to let you enter what you were paid. And if it was below what you should have been paid, it's going to let you reconcile that on the 2020 return. Rather than getting a stimulus check, you'll get a credit on your tax return, which could either increase your refund amount or decrease any amounts owed. What if you didn't receive a stimulus payment at all? If you didn't receive a stimulus payment at all and you're eligible based on your adjusted gross income for 2020, you can just enter the amount in there and you'll get the credit. For people who need the money as soon as possible, which I believe is a good majority of people, Elkins recommends getting your 2020 tax return filed as soon as possible. So get it done. It's the beginning of the year. Who's focusing on that? Elkins says the earlier you file, the earlier you're going to get your refund. Elkin said he has faith that the IRS will give people the money they're owed come tax time, but many people need this money and cannot bear to wait much longer. The IRS says if you get a please wait message, that's normal, and you should check the site for your payment status later on in the day. But again, for those people who receive the payment, not available message, they'll unfortunately have to wait until tax time to file for the money they did not receive. If you want to get more information, just go to irs.gov and select that. Did you get it? Have you received it? Or are you spending it already? I will say keep it for things that you absolutely need. Don't go out and buy the latest gear unless you have the money to blow. Let's see. Gorilla Chico says, I don't need government payoffs. I never cashed the last stimulus. Gorilla, you don't need anything, it sounds like. That's pretty good. Let's see. Rosalie says, my daughter got that notice not available, but then it showed up in her bank account the next day. Good to know. Good to know. And Algenia says, good morning. I had a friend's son that took COVID test, was positive a week ago. Now he's negative in a week. And Gorilla says, I've never filed taxes, cash money. Just Gorilla Chico just says everything by the book of Gorilla Land. Okay, we're going to take a quick break here on the morning show. We'll be right back right after these messages.
Hello, listeners. Christopher here from The Christopher Show. Hey, I want to talk to you a little bit about CBD. Now, CBD is not approved by the FDA as of yet. Myself, as well as millions of other people across the USA, have used it with help for pain, anxiety, sleep, and other conditions. Now, you know, all CBD products are not equal. It really matters on where you get the CBD from. Now, I suggest you get it from a qualified pharmacist, and I happen to know of one. It's at Your Pharmacy and Mobility Solutions in Beaumont, California. They only carry pharmaceutical-grade CBD products of the highest quality. So if you want the best, you go to Your Pharmacy and Mobility Solutions. Their staff is there to help you with all your CBD, pharmacy, and mobility needs. They're located at 1680 East 6th Street in Beaumont, California. Give them a call, 951-845-8252. Once again, it's Your Pharmacy Mobility Solutions in Beaumont, 951-845-8252. Once again, it's Your Pharmacy and Mobility Solutions in Beaumont, California, 951-845-8252.
For all you truck and RV enthusiasts, Truckworks right here in Banning is your one-stop shop for the best diesel performance and overall truck and RV needs. Whether you're towing, racing, off-road, or just cruising around town, Truckworks specializes in truck and RV service, maintenance, repair, and performance upgrades for every light and medium-duty truck manufacturer. Bring it down to Terry and the guys at Truckworks. Call 951-922-4776 or visit their website at mydieseldown.com today.
For generations, alligators have weathered nature, biological threats, and predators. How do they do this? The answer is in their uncanny DNA. Alligators have one of the strongest immune systems in the animal kingdom. Their fat cells contain the essential oils needed to fight off deadly infection and rejuvenate skin. How can you benefit from the alligator's amazing rejuvenating powers? Cayman oil. Cayman oil is the revitalizing and healing power of the alligator in a bottle. Cayman oil is carefully purified and refined with an added hint of vitamin E and lavender to better harness the alligator's ability to heal worn and damaged skin. Treat dry skin, infections, cuts, burns, scarring, eczema, rashes, muscle and joint pain, and more. Even athlete's foot. It's clinically proven to kill the flesh-eating bacteria MRSA. This really works. We guarantee it or your money back. Go to mycayman.com. mycaimon.com. That's mycayman.com.
Touchdown! Football season is back, and so is Steer the Line with Lou Desmond and me, Jeremy James. Join Lou and I, along with special guests, every Friday at 5 p.m. as we cover the latest in NFL news, fantasy football, and, of course, our weekly Steer the Line game picks. We'll also do check-ins on our local LA teams and, of course, a deeper dive into Raider Nation. Fridays at 5 p.m. on 1490 KMET. Follow Steer the Line on Twitter and Facebook and visit steertheline.com.
Welcome back. Yes, it is the morning show here on ABC News Radio, KMET, 1490 AM. However you're tuning in, over the radio, over the air, and or online, we appreciate you. Thank you for tweeting, retweeting, and sharing. We also appreciate your comments in social media land, which are, again, live, late, and breaking. Sometimes I don't read all the comments before we post them up, but keep them coming. We love them. We appreciate them. This is the latest. UK Very interesting. I always say whenever you're going to look at something coming up around the corner, always look at international waters as well. The UK plans to postpone giving the required second dose of their authorized vaccines by up to 12 weeks. It's an attempt to hasten distribution of the first dose. The public experiment is highly controversial as the vaccine's second doses were authorized to be given 3 to 4 weeks after their first per the clinical trials. Dr. Paul Offit says, bad idea. He's a member of the Food and Drug Administration's Vaccine Advisory Committee. He says you're disrupting a program, adding if a recipient's second dose is delayed 2 months later, 3 months later, 4 months later, they may not be protected anymore. COVID-19 vaccine injections have lagged globally, with the U.S. having only inoculated over 5 million of the approximate 20 million vaccines distributed around the country. With the new virus variant running rampant in the UK, causing its second official shutdown, their health officials are grasping to gain the upper hand. Dr. Laith Alexander of St. Thomas Hospital in the UK, Alexander, received his first injection last month, said he did not agree to have his second shot delayed. He says, it's all we're seeing really day in and day out, more and more cases of this. The problem is I consented to the vaccination as per the schedule that was tested in the trial. In the phase 3 trial, I didn't really consent to a schedule that ultimately doesn't have a randomized clinical trial behind it. The authorized vaccines in the UK, including those from Pfizer, AstraZeneca, and Moderna, each require 2 doses. Each vaccine has some data showing that the vaccine could be moderately effective after the first shot, but not nearly as much as they would be without the second required dose. Offit said this to ABC News regarding the data from the vaccine clinical trials, said, quote, with the Pfizer first dose, it was about 50% effective or so within that 3-week period of time. For the Moderna first dose, about 80% within the 4-week period of time. But all that shows is that you have a very, very short range of protection with that first dose, which may only be a few weeks. Offit is a part of the advisory committee that voted for the FDA to authorize Pfizer and Moderna's COVID-19 vaccine candidates for emergency use in the U.S. They went on to say that second dose gives you an excellent boost response, or as was shown in the clinical trials, it's making a mistake to just delay the second dose because it sends a subtle message that the second dose perhaps isn't so important, whereas it's critically important because that's what gives you the protection, likely longer-term protection you need from these vaccines. Now, the World Health Organization also weighed in on the plan for the UK, saying scientific evidence does not support a delay of more than 6 weeks in administering a second vaccine dose. Offit said there's no support among researchers at the FDA to delay second doses in the U.S. One option being discussed, however, is administering just half the volume of the Moderna vaccine when giving each dose, which is based on early results in 18 to 55-year-olds. A lot of questions here, Jesse. I remember you asking why, 1 dose, 2 doses, 3 doses, what's important, right?
Yeah, I remember that.
And so what do you think by the situation here currently?
For Europe, right?
Well, and here too, it's coming up.
Yeah. Okay, I kind of missed part of what you were saying.
It's okay.
No, so Europe is deciding to skip some of those things too, or no?
The second dose, they want to push it out a little further. And here's a warning that the FDA has issued a lot of warnings lately, but you have to understand the FDA gets a lot of information back ahead of time, and then when they start seeing certain spikes in certain areas, you got to ask, why are they giving the warning? It's kind of like food. If you got salmonella, or remember when we couldn't eat certain lettuce? Do you remember that last year?
Yes, I do. The romaine lettuce.
Yeah, and you kind of want to know that stuff, right? You kind of want to know ahead of time. And then there was a time where I think we went to Soup Plantation and they didn't have any of that lettuce, that type of romaine lettuce. And you're just like, I miss it. But then it came back when it was good and safe. So here's the FDA. They warned this on Monday. We want to remind the people about the importance of receiving COVID-19 vaccines according to how they've been authorized in order to safely receive the level of protection observed in the randomized clinical trials. Injections in the U.S. continue to be slower than officials originally promised. Dr. Anthony Fauci, director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, said the U.S. may soon be able to vaccinate 1 million people per day. Eyes remain on the ongoing clinical trials for Johnson & Johnson's single-dose vaccine candidate. If the company proves to the FDA its vaccine is safe and effective, injections could be expected or expedited starting as soon as February, with up to 100 million doses distributed in the U.S. You have to remember, there's so many. Okay, let me back up just a minute, because I know a lot of people, I've had several conversations this week about vaccines, hope, and where are we going in the stream of time. Which one is the most effective one, Jesse?
Pfizer? No, I don't know.
The question is, how could you know, right? It's too early to tell.
There you go.
At the end of the day, sometimes the multiple ones which are given at a certain time are, if you give them all in one, let's put it this way. I would much rather have a staggered approach one, because it gives your body the ability to acclimate it rather than a super high dosage. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, and just it's pretty much instead of a high dose, you get a low dose, and then let your body acclimate to what's happening, and then you get the larger dose at the end.
Exactly, and it completes it, right? So it's kind of like time release, right? You ever take time released gel capsules? They say don't take it within so much time. Keep stagger it out. In other words, you don't want to take 100 Advils for your pain right away. You got to take 4 to 6 hours out, or even the one for allergies, right? They have a really good sinus one. I know Advil has a good sinus and allergy one. You don't take them all at once. So some of these vaccines are actually more effective when they're staggered out. Now, of course, you have to deal with people's ability to keep true to like a systematic approach, right? Are you responsible? B, are you willing to go back when you're good and ready, and or you're scheduled to go back? I think the UK is having some questions, probably, especially because of the latest different types of strains of coronavirus. And the question I think that they're probably having behind the scenes is this effective against the latest strains? I don't know. Because remember, when they came out for the first, 5 different strains, perhaps? But what about the latter ones that have been happening, especially in the United Kingdom? These are the type of questions you have to ask yourself if and when you're going to take these, if you have an option as well. Being safe, trying to be safe. Again, there are some that are very high risk. And again, if you're at very high risk, something is better than nothing, right? However, I'm going to say it again. I'm still going to wait, and there's still going to be new ones coming out because they're going to have to include more of the virus strains. Lately, I had this conversation with somebody, and they thought there was only like 8 strains. There's actually a total of. Do you know what the latest number is of the strains that they have around the world, Jesse, or approximate?
I think we talked about this. I want to say 17 or 32.
Interesting. Yeah, it's actually confirmed more like 8, and then behind certain walls it's been like 18, and 38 is currently what is being touted as a potential. But again, not all here in the US. We're talking, so you have to be careful with this sort of information you're getting, which is why I appreciate the World Health Organization and any international organization that accumulates all the information from Australia to Canada to Mexico to Russia to all of the other countries, because it varies and is different and will mutate differently in given certain isolated circles. So if you don't go traveling perhaps to Zimbabwe, for example, you're not going to get the type of virus that currently might be happening right there, and or vice versa. They may not get the type of virus that we have unless you do visit Zimbabwe. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. But then again, we're assuming that the vaccine doesn't work against the variant. But I actually heard on the radio earlier today that it does work against the variants, at least in the UK.
Which vaccine?
Ooh, good question. I think they were talking about the Moderna one.
Or maybe Pfizer, because you were pretty adamant about Pfizer's one working. I have questions about the Moderna that I've already seen some situations come up, but again, something's better than nothing, especially if you're in the healthcare realm. But I will say this, cautionary: if you start experiencing new symptoms and or things like in the next few months, like I could see at a time, like in about a year from now, all of a sudden they're going to have all these, keep your records, because I could see if there's all of a sudden something related to something else. You know what I mean? Like there's certain ones that they go, well, we did clinical trials, we did this drug didn't work for this or that. Now it causes diabetes, or now you have all a sort of other things. Just keep track of the one that you did get, because in the year to year and a half, I can almost guarantee you there's going to be something coming up that all of a sudden they go, oh, we didn't know it had that. For example, Moderna The fact that it has problems with people that have face fillers, that's a huge red flag. It may be in a minute amount of people, but how is it compacting with the actual, like, is it the allergy, or certain people that have allergies not supposed to take of the Moderna, which again is one of the warning labels. So you got to ask, and make sure before you get one that they ask you what allergies you have, and then go do the research really quick. It doesn't take that long. Just check it out. Let's see. Maria says this: Moderna's vaccine, like Pfizer's, uses messenger RNA, a novel technology that essentially teaches our cells how to produce the coronavirus spike protein that triggers an immune response if we become infected with the virus in the future. The vaccine uses a synthetically produced mRNA that's packaged in a fat coating. When injected into the arm muscle, the mRNA is dumped into the cell. It's then translated into protein to make the antibody. Moderna's vaccine, like Pfizer's, requires Pfizer mRNA vaccines teach our cells how to make a protein that will trigger an immune response without using the live virus that causes COVID-19. Once triggered, the body then makes antibodies. These antibodies help fight the infection if the real virus does enter the body in the future. RNA stands for ribonucleic acid, which is a molecule that provides cells with instructions for making proteins. Messenger RNA vaccines contain the genetic instructions for making the SARS-CoV-2. And look, here's the reality of what she's saying, and that's in an optimal environment. However, people's chemical biology changes from time to time, and obviously you got questions on that, on how it's going to affect other things as well. I'm not saying don't get it if you need to get it. I'm just saying be highly cautious, and if you could put it off till probably a couple more months when you're going to see a lot more news, trust me, there's going to be a lot more news about people not doing well with it and or doing well with it. And then there's a risk factor because nothing's 100%, right? That's just the way it is. All right, people, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with more right after these messages. Stay tuned.
Your health truly is the greatest gift. At U-Theory, quality of life is at the heart of every product we make. From farm to shelf, we travel the world to source the purest, most efficacious, and clinically studied ingredients to create science-backed supplements that support beauty, emotional, digestive, and physical well-being. All U-Theory products are manufactured at our Southern California facility, ensuring the highest quality standards every step of the way. As a family-owned company, we celebrate the power of human potential with a mission to inspire wellness in all. Try U-Theory Immune Plus Daily Wellness, 100% daily values of vitamin C, D3, and zinc. Go beyond the you of today and catch the you of tomorrow. U-Theory.
Who is the Atua Man? Can you imagine exploring spiritual consciousness through an exotic action-adventure story? The Atua Man is masterfully illuminated in this self-discovery novel by John Stevenson. Dive into the page-turning epic hero's journey, weaving together high action with spiritual revelation. Join the Atua Man and his colorful cohorts as they travel through the majestic Hawaii, the hidden mysteries of Polynesia, and the intrigue, starting with the mysterious healing that breeds chaos in London. This journey guides us through the trials of living in the material world, arriving into enlightened consciousness, perhaps glimpse into the fabric of creation. How is the Atua Man affected by the global healing ministry surrounding him? How does he navigate the complexities of love, forgiveness, life and death, wealth and power? Find out in John Stevenson's TheAtuaMan.com, Apple Books, Amazon, Barnes & Noble.
Decades ago, scientists discovered why Greenland Eskimos maintain healthy hearts despite their high-fat diets. The high level of omega-3 oils in their seafood diet protected their hearts. Carlson Norwegian fish oil provides those important omega-3 oils. The same omega-3s from cold water fish support maximum brain power, immune strength, joint comfort, and our vision too. Carlson, the very finest fish oil, is a valuable source of the important omega-3s, EPA and DHA. Each teaspoon provides a full 1,600 milligrams of omega-3s. And its purity is guaranteed. Try it on salads and popcorn. It tastes like lemon, not fishy. Ask for Carlson, the very finest fish oil, at finer health food stores today.
That's right. It's the morning show here on ABC News Radio, KMT 1490 AM. We're following some of the latest headlines, although this one came up, and I think you'll appreciate this one, Jesse. We were talking about the woman seen on video tackling the teenager who happened to be black, whom she falsely accused of stealing her phone at a Manhattan hotel, is now in custody. And guess what? She's in our neck of the woods in the LA area. Yeah, law enforcement officials say police said Thursday night Maya Ponceto was taken into custody by the Ventura County Sheriff's Department. NYPD detectives who had flown to California to assist with the search were also present for the arrest. The Ventura County Sheriff's deputies, literally, that's in our backyard, right, Jesse? Like just to the west of me, just literally. Planned to make a traffic stop on the warrant for her arrest out of New York, but she refused to stop and drove slowly through her Peru, California neighborhood, officials say. That's Piru, not Peru, like the other country. When she came to a stop, she put up a fight and resisted arrest. I wonder why. ABC News reports she had to be physically restrained and arrested. Ponceto is being held on no bail and will have an extradition hearing. Once she is done with New York, she could also face charges in California for resisting arrest and possibly for the pursuit. Ponceto was confirmed as the woman in the December 26th video by her attorney, Sharon Gatton. Gatton said Ponceto is emotionally unwell and remorseful. I believe that. I'm not going to lie on that. There's something wrong there. The conflict at the Arlo Hotel in Lower Manhattan between Ponceto and 14-year-old Keon Harold Jr. was recorded by his father, jazz trumpeter Keon Harold, and put online. In this video, an agitated woman is seen demanding her phone be returned with the hotel manager, which was trying to settle the situation. Security video later released by the NYPD shows the woman frantically chasing down the teen as he tried to exit the hotel's front door. She's been seen grabbing him from behind before both tumbled to the ground. Harold said the phone was returned by an Uber driver shortly afterward. The altercation drew comparisons to cases like that of Amy Cooper, who was a white woman who was charged with filing a false report for calling 911 and saying she was being threatened by an African-American man during a dispute in New York Central Park in May. Harold has called on the Manhattan District Attorney to bring assault and battery charges against Ponceto. Gatton said she spoke to her client who lives near L.A. and that she strikes me as someone who's unwell. She said Ponceto lashed out over worry about her phone disappearing and that it wasn't radically motivated. She said it could have been anyone. So I do believe that. I mean, if this woman was like obviously homeless, all of a sudden people would be like, no, yeah, okay, we get it. So I think there's a little bit of I'm not coming to her aid in this. I mean, if the roles were reversed, people would have a much harder time. Like if he were white and she were black, right? So do you understand what I'm saying? Like they wouldn't have taken it. It's just
I gotcha. And
there's a lot of like people that do steal that, don't have any one color. It's just it's humanity, right? Humanity. So, or false reports. God, being at the end of a false report's the worst thing ever. But you hope truth will prevail in the end, right, Jesse?
Yes, I do.
And again, I do hope she gets the help that she needs. But she does sound a lot unwell, and she actually looks unwell on that entire just so get her help. Let's see. Mari says, yeah, I hope she gets it all thrown at her. You know what? And I will say, I mean, she's not making matters any better if you don't go willingly. So if they want to lock you up, just say, okay, fine, give me my attorney. And there you go. Although again, that's a hard thing sometimes, because then you wonder, are the police going to take care of you? And if she did refuse, then you ask those questions, and it just gets to be a big pain in the booty. Okay, speaking of big pain in the booty, LA is issuing unprecedented order to ambulances amid overwhelming COVID-19 cases. Did you see this, Jesse? Did you hear about this? Oh, and by the way, can I just give you a nod? You were right. It was Pfizer that is the one that you were talking about earlier. It wasn't Moderna.
The one for the to work against the variants.
Yeah, Pfizer vaccine likely to work against variants. So you always go with your first instinct. It was Pfizer. But as for the ability to ask an ambulance to take you, can you imagine being refused, Jesse?
No, I cannot. And honestly, it'd probably be cheaper just to get an Uber.
It actually sometimes is. But here's the problem with this. LA hospitals have been scrambling to care for the rising number of coronavirus patients for weeks now, turning chapels and gift shops into space to care for those who are sick. The overwhelmed county's desperation reached a new height when its Emergency Medical Services Agency, known as the EMS, to not transport patients with blunt trauma or non-traumatic cardiac arrest to hospitals if they cannot be resuscitated. Mark Eckstein, medical director of the LA Fire Department, said, quote, "Make no mistake, we're facing an unprecedented crisis right now. I'm 30 plus years in emergency medicine. I've never heard of emergency departments literally refusing to accept ambulance patients saying, we have no more room, go somewhere else." Calling the directive a form of countrywide triage, Eckstein said it's the worst nightmare of any first responder. Also stressed that patients who've experienced the sort of trauma or cardiac arrest noted in the directive do not often survive. He said that hospitals who have been so backed up that ambulances have had to wait outside for up to 8 hours to transfer care of the patients. Eckstein said, "We cannot have multiple ambulances waiting for hours on end to offload and then have patients suffer as a result with a delayed 911 response." Nationwide, a record of over 128,000 people were hospitalized for COVID-19 on Monday. California has reported more hospitalizations than any other state, with over 22,000 people needing inpatient medical care, while Arizona has reported the highest rate of infections in the country. Dr. Jason Prasso, a pulmonologist at Martin Luther King Jr. Community Hospital, said the hospital is currently running at 3 times its normal capacity. While speaking with ABC News, an urgent call to respond rapidly to a patient went out on the intercom. Prasso said the calls happen more often now, and while that patient was saved, others had died that day. Lately, it's been all day. Normally, we have this is what he said. Normally, we have 1 or 2 a day, but there have been days recently where we've had 8, so that's uncommon. So I know we're out of time. This article goes into so much more information, but all I can say at this point is please, 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 please be extra careful during this time. This is not the time to get sick. This is not the time to roll your skateboard and run it into a wall or anything. Just be careful over there, okay? Have you ever done anything like that, Jesse?
Ran into a wall?
With a skateboard?
Skateboard, no. Bike, yes.
Then don't do any of that, okay, anytime soon. And there you go. Who knew? How would you run? Okay, I got questions that need to be answered, but we don't have any more time. Download our app. It's KMET 1490 AM. Thank you, very much. I ran into a fire hydrant with my bike once. I didn't see it coming. It was silver, and it was the same as the sidewalk. So I feel your pain, Jesse. I feel your pain.
Okay,
We'll be back again next week. Bye-bye, everyone. All right, and for the rest of you tuning in, thanks for tuning in and making it a good one here. Let's see. Maria says, poor people in LA. Well, poor people all over, not just there. Yeah. And you're right. It's everywhere. In some areas, it's a lot worse than others. And I will say, if you're in the LA area, you got to be super careful. I always tell people, as of this week, I've been telling people, if you can move further east, do so. Or at least go to a hospital if you can further east. And they're a lot less inundated. We'll just put it that way. Let's see. Back onto this story. Let me just kind of complete this because I think some of you need to hear this. Lately, let's see, Dr. Elaine Batchelor, CEO of the hospital, said that the hospital is a heavily Black and Latino part of the city. Many of the people who are sick are essential workers. Batchelor said, these are the people that are stocking the grocery stores, cleaning up after all of us, driving the buses. They continue to be exposed in the community. They also live in more crowded housing situations where it's harder to isolate. So if one member of the family gets sick, it's very easy to transmit it to the entire household. Health officials have partly attributed the surge throughout the U.S. to Thanksgiving travel, with more than 3 million people passing through Transportation and Security Administration checkpoints on the weekend. The TSA reported 17 million people passing through their checkpoints between December 18th and January 3rd. While it's still too early to determine the impact of the holidays, they have already seen signs of the virus spreading from Christmas activities. And not just hospitals that are overwhelmed. Florida, some seniors waited for hours in line to schedule an appointment to get the COVID-19 vaccine, while other seniors camped out overnight to receive their shots. Only 4.8 million COVID-19 vaccinations have been administered out of a goal of 20 million by the end of last year. Dr. Anthony Fauci said that the glitches in the rollout of the vaccine may have been worked out and that there could be soon up to 1 million vaccinations a day. I would say this, be careful with some of that, because we're seeing a lot more stories of certain things not happening as they should, because everybody's kind of frantic and running around going, how do we deal with this? Again, if you're in any sort of position to be able to remember this, do so calmly, do so as expediently as possible. Try to take care of your health more than anything. I talked to a good friend who's just trying to keep their job alive, and they started sounding a little sick in their throat. And my first thing is, okay, it could be easily a cold or your immune system kind of, dragged down, but make sure to take care of yourself in between as well. And make sure to get the necessary vitamins, the necessary fruits, vegetables to get your body back up to where it's got to be in the event that you get just a regular cold and or flu. Because remember, those things are going on as well. Sometimes it's not necessarily coronavirus, or sometimes it is a combination there, but just remember, it could be as simple as that. So do remember, again, practice safe distancing, practice, again, use your thinking head, wear the face mask. I haven't seen too many people without a face mask. And if you got to wear gloves in the next coming weeks as well. Because if we're talking about certain food items, then you're going to want to be careful with that. But there's a good way and a bad way of getting rid of your gloves as well. And so just remember that. Don't wear them all day. Wear them if you go into a place or an environment where you think they have it, then just wear it during that place and then remove it immediately when you leave. Simple as that. Don't wear them all day, because that just spreads more germs and everything to everybody. Okay, people? All right, people, make it a great day. We'll see you next week with more of the morning show. Make it a good one. Bye-bye, everyone.